Fresh meat.
I'm sure we can all agree that Halloween is one of the most important genre films ever. It helped redefine the slasher subgenre. It created one of the most, if not the most, well-known horror icon. Because, let's be real, everyone has seen or is aware of Halloween, and more specifically, Michael Myers. Now, the one thing the Halloween franchise has over all the competition is its stupidly high timeline count. Where, some sequels count, others don't. We get a remake, a standalone minus Michael Myers, and so on. So let's break it down and dig into each timeline and clarify this jumbled mess that is the Halloween franchise. Now, it really is quite simple. Michael Myers is a kid who murdered his sister. Michael killing his sister, but he actually because third installment son of a bitch. So let's jump into the OG, the timeline that started it all. Here we start with the original Halloween. Michael kills his sister on Halloween night and is put in Smith's Grove Sanitarium. After 15 years, he escapes, murders for some overalls, steals a mask, and heads back home to put the wrong things right. It's here where he sees Laurie Strode, who catches his eye, and becomes the mark of his attention for no other reason than she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Michael's doctor, Samuel Loomis, spends the night searching only to find him at the last possible second, emptying his revolver, forcing Michael out of a second-story balcony while saving the life of Laurie Strode. And part 2 continues right after. Michael's body is missing, Laurie is rushed to the hospital, and Loomis realizes he is up shit creek. And it's here we learn why. Michael is Laurie's brother. Now, John Carpenter wasn't a fan of this revelation, even though he wrote it, admitting that its existence is purely as a function of having decided to become involved in the sequel to the movie where I didn't think there was really much of a story left. Laurie lives, and in a noble self-sacrifice, Loomis blows both of them the f*** up, saving the day and completing the saga of Michael Myers. Moving on to part 3, Debra Hill and John Carpenter were only willing to be involved if the story was something new, something fresh. They had no interest in continuing with Myers, and wanted part 2 to be its finite conclusion. Each film from now on would be a single story, maybe 2 movies, a double feature. The idea was to turn Halloween into an anthology series, like Night Gallery, Outer Limits, or The Twilight Zone. This story would deal with the Silver Shamrock Company, an evil corporation that was run with the intention of using Celtic witchcraft, high-tech androids, and motherfucking Stonehenge to sacrifice a shit ton of children with Halloween masks and a very, very catchy jingle.
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween.
Now, the hero here isn't some English psychiatrist, but a mustache-sporting badass by the name of Tom Atkins. Having an entry without Michael Myers named Halloween was a bold move that backfired. It has since grown a strong cult following, somewhat recently, with Joe Bob's fantastic male girl Darcy leading a big and public charge for a change in public perception. But with the failure of Season of the Witch, the idea of an anthology was dead, ending the original timeline that would have had parts 4, 5, and on be totally separate stories. After the backlash of a missing Michael Myers in part 3, producers opted to bring back the shape and get the series back on top, ignoring part 3 and changing the severity of Halloween 2's ending. I mean, that's my interpretation, because Loomis really is a scarring of a mishandled firework, and, not this. Taking place 10 years after part 2, has Myers awake from a coma to head back to the old stomping ground, Haddonfield, Illinois, with hopes of finding his niece, Jamie, the daughter of Laurie Strode, who died in a car crash prior and off-screen to this movie. Loomis, now back again, protects Jamie in parts 4 and 5. Part 5 introduces the mysterious man in black, and in part 6, brings into focus why Michael even cares about killing his niece. Enter the Druid Curse, in which a child is chosen and must kill its next of kin on Halloween night. This secret cult is ran by Michael's doctor, Terrence Wynn, and they have studied Michael with the purpose of making others like him. Jamie is eventually killed by Michael, and depending on the cut of Halloween 6, theatrical or producer's cut, Michael is either killed by Paul Rudd or is passed on the Thorn Curse to Dr. Loomis. So the Thorn timeline goes parts 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, and is what most consider, and rightfully should, be the true Halloween timeline. Is it silly? Yeah. Yes, it is. Downright ridiculous. The 90s did this a lot. A bunch of franchises were long in the tooth and needed a bit of mytho-retconning. Jason was a body-hopping worm. Freddy's powers came from demon sperm. Dream demons. Dream demons. Leatherface and his family were controlled by a secret government agency. And Michael was under the influence of a curse the whole time. In 1996, Scream changed the world. Wes Craven had once again redefined something that had been stagnant and pumped fresh life into it. Witty teen dialogue writer Kevin Williamson, who wrote Scream, helped out, uncredited of course, on bringing back the shape for his 20-year anniversary. This timeline wasn't interested in the occult or the niece Jamie. Instead, the idea was to pick up from Laurie's last encounter, Halloween 2. Ignoring parts 4, 5, 6. 3 really never counted, let's be honest. Halloween H2O would act as a proper third installment and an official ending to the Myers saga that would extend into part 8. This had Michael track down Laurie, who had faked her death, to California, as she's been living under a fake name and runs a private boarding school for work. So H2O also makes part 2's ending less severe, with Loomis and obviously Michael surviving. Michael eventually finds and battles with Laurie, resulting in a cool decapitation and a true end for Michael Myers. Except that it wasn't Michael, causing Laurie to go insane. Or is she? Of course, our masked killer waited for the opportune time to re-emerge and finally achieve his lifelong goal of killing his sister.
I'll see you in hell.
With Laurie finally dead, Michael heads back home, only to find a tall rapper and a bunch of teens live streaming in his house. I mean, let's be honest, this is where the series is gonna head. Without the family angle, Michael would most likely protect his house and maybe, I don't know, just kill around town every Halloween. This timeline is the finale for the Strode journey and a reboot of sorts with Resurrection. Laurie's dead, Jamie Lee Curtis is finished with the series, and remakes are all the rage. Cue Rob Zombie, hot off the success of The Devil's Rejects, hired to helm the first official remake of Halloween. Now, differentiating his take from what came before, Halloween 07 would explore an abusive childhood. This would be about how the killer came to be, with the added aggression and violence Zombie was known for. The 07 version was part prequel and part remake, while Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 was 100% his own. So the studio had a mandate for the remake, but part 2 is where Rob got to make the movie he wanted to tell. Yeah, it's divisive for sure, with some even claiming that Zombie's version of Michael was far closer to Jason Voorhees. Now, I'm gonna say this. Michael was very Jason-esque in both Rob Zombie's films, but Jason was essentially Michael Myers in Freddy vs. Jason. So tough shit. Laurie is not dead, and in the Blumhouse timeline, 2018's Halloween is a direct sequel to 1978's Halloween. Yeah, I guess no need for a different title. They must charge by the letter. Now this sequel ignores part 2 and everything after, effectively retconning Michael's blood relation to Laurie. Taking place 40 years after the original, Michael escapes the institution he's been in since being caught shortly after he was shot and walked away. This Michael is meant to be more human, stripped of any superhuman powers. Oh, I guess they forgot about that. He is just a killer who will murder anyone in his vicinity. And really, him killing Laurie is more like taking care of old business, trying to mimic the feel and intent of the original. This timeline once again has an older Laurie face off against the killer that has kept her paranoid for so many years. Though this ends with Michael dying, we know that this specific timeline will include a total of 4 films, with the 2 sequels, Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. I guess the only real question is, how did he survive? Oh, alright, looks like a fireman axe type of thing. Okay, so there you have it. Timelines with some sequels counting, others not. A Celtic Stonehenge plot with a mustached hero. Michael always seeming to survive this. We get a character study with the force of Jason Voorhees, druid cults, an adorable niece, and Artie.
The strongest man in the world.
There won't be a time in history where all these wild ideas could exist in one franchise. Now pour a drink and toast to the Shape himself in all of his timeline-hopping glory. Here's to you, Michael. Here's to you.
I wanted you to feel me. The painter behind the curtain doll felt the time not due. So I swam over that ocean.
I hope she likes cripples.
Bitch, I will crawl over there and I will skull fuck the shit out of you!
Oh, I'll get the crutches for you.